In this video, I explain exactly how quantum physics works and how I personally used it to create my dream reality in 30 days. But also in that video, a lot of you guys were asking me, how do you actually send out a signal, tap into the right frequency to connect with the quantum field to basically attract and bring in any reality you want in your life? And that is what I'm going to cover in today's video, because honestly, I have done so many quantum leaps in my life. I've manifested so much, and I genuinely believe every single person needs to know how to do this, especially if you feel like you have taken so much action, but you're struggling to see results and make real change in your life. So by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what to do on your end to once again send out that signal to the field and attract whatever it is that you want. Now, before I get into my diagrams, my slides, everything, the first thing I want you to understand is we as the observer can affect any particle and basically collapse into our timeline, any reality that we want. Because in the quantum field, every single possibility already exists. It's not whether or not we can get a specific desire, goal, or lifestyle. It already exists there. So for us, we need to understand, how can we actually connect to that specific desire and bring it into us? And that's the first thing I want to talk about. How do we actually connect with the quantum field? So I'm going to pull up my iPad and really show you, oh my gosh, it's 11:11. Everybody make a wish. I'm going to show you exactly how we connect with these different particles in the quantum field. So once again, you know and really understand exactly how it works. On a quantum level, everything over here is basically energy, like the small particles and atoms that we can't really see with our eyes. This is all energy. Now, energy vibrates at different frequencies, and these frequencies are called waves. Now, one thing I want you to remember is every single wave is a possibility. So what I just said is every single reality, desire, goal, and lifestyle that you want, it already exists as a wave-like possibility. Now, the other thing that people always ask me is, what's the difference between vibration and frequency? And this is going to matter, especially in a little bit when I show you how to actually get into the right vibration and frequency to be a match for what it is that you want. Now, vibration is basically the actual movement of energy. Now, once again, like these small little particles of energy, they can move up and down, they can move like back and forth, side to side. Now, when it comes to frequency, it's basically the rate of how fast these particles are moving. Oh, and these are also measured in hertz. And I'm sure you guys have heard, like, if you listen to higher frequency music, like higher hertz, that's when you can really tap into the abundance piece. So that's the difference between vibration and frequency. Now, when it comes to a manifestation standpoint, we are energetic beings. Therefore, we can actually tap into different vibrations and frequencies. Now, our version of vibration is basically your state of being. And your state of being is made up of your emotions, feelings, and energy. And your frequency is basically like the channel that you're tuned into. So I'm going to write here the channel you are tuned into. And this can be the channel of abundance, love, fear. So it's basically like overall, what channel are you tuning into? So since we have different levels of vibration and different frequencies we're tapping into, and we're energetic beings, that is how we actually connect with the quantum field and with different particles, energies, and wave-like possibilities, because they're always vibrating in different frequencies. Now, before I get into my example to really show you how this like plays out in real life, I want to talk about, do these particles respond to effort and action? Because a lot of the times people ask me like I'm taking this like physical action, but why am I not actually seeing the result in real life? So indirectly, yes, these particles respond to effort and action because effort and action is energy. So yes, they do, but in reality, they don't really respond as much as we think we are. But they do respond when we are actually in alignment with, once again, the vibration frequency that we want in correlation with the desire that we want. So if you're taking action without alignment, you're forcing the energy, most likely you're not going to attract the right particles, the right opportunities, the people that will lead you to what you want. But if your action, let me just right here, if your action is in alignment, that is when you're actually going to start to see those like coincidences pop up. And I always say, like, one aligned action is so much more beneficial than 100 forced ones. And I'm going to show you now exactly how this plays out in people's like day-to-day life. So for this specific example, we're going to talk about making money because everybody wants to make more money. I love money, you love money. So let's talk about how to actually make more money without burning ourselves out. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is just like effort and action only. So in the Newtonian world, and the Newtonian world is basically the physical 3D world that we live in right now here today. Everything is cause and effect. Input and then you get output. So for an example, you have to work 40 plus hours to get a predictable paycheck. So if you're working 40 hours in a single week, maybe at the end of the week, you're making like $1,000, right? So it's whatever action that we put in, we get an output and we get a result. But that is only based on the laws of the Newtonian world, Newtonian physics. Now, when we get into quantum physics, that is basically like only vibration. It's vibration only. However, since we don't live in like a quantum field, we live in the Newtonian world, vibration on its own when it comes to just like meditating, thinking positively all day long, but not actually taking action or creating anything, there is no real channel for that money to flow, right? So it's like for me, I know when I first learned about quantum physics manifestation, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago, I went so far deep on that end where I would just sit around and meditate all day, but I wouldn't actually take action. And then of course, nothing actually showed up in my reality. So the perfect combination is vibration / frequency plus action. That is the sweet spot because you align with the abundant feeling of feeling wealthy, really believing money actually can and will flow to you. Then you take inspired action. And that inspired action could be maybe it's posting a video on social media, maybe it's like picking up an extra shift at work, like whatever that is for you, you get those intuitive downloads when you're actually aligned with the frequency of abundance and of wealth. And I always love to use the example of when I made my first $10,000 in one single month. Prior to that, I was just starting my business and I was doing all the right actions. Like I was posting on social media, I was doing sales calls, I was doing master classes, I was doing everything, but I was stuck at only making like $500 a month. But when I start to tap into the frequency of somebody of once again who already makes $10,000 and that's normal for her, I kid you not, in 30 days, I made that quantum leap. And it was just as if I had already been living it. So I always say the particles all around you, they align to the signal that you're actually sending out. So now that we know that we connect with the quantum field through vibration frequency, how do we actually do that and how do we send out the signal? And that is what I want to get into now. How do we send out the signal and tap into the frequency of actually connecting with the quantum field? One thing I really want you to understand is you are always sending out a signal whether you think you are or you're not, because once again, we're energetic beings, therefore we're always vibrating in different rates and we're channeled into different frequencies, okay? So since we are always channeling something to the quantum field, why not channel things that we actually want? Okay, so this is basically, I want to draw and show you how we actually send out that signal and what actually makes up our signal. So our signal is made up of thoughts, and this is basically what you're thinking about the majority of the day and majority of the time. And then it's also made up of emotions and feelings. And this is really, really important because your emotions and feelings, they are the energetic charge. Your emotions, they have different energetic, basically vibration. So you want to know how you're feeling and how, like, you know, what emotion you're experiencing. And then it's also your beliefs. And once again, your beliefs are what you believe to be true. And most of the time, your beliefs are deeply rooted in your subconscious brain, which is what I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. Now, one other thing that a lot of people don't talk about is also your actions, and not just your actions, but I'm also going to write over here aligned actions, because once again, you can sit there all day long meditating, being in the feeling state, but if you're not actually taking any action and you're not sending out the movement that the quantum field needs to see in order to bring in the physical reality in the Newtonian world, it's not actually going to happen. Now, all of these things over here make up your vibration and your frequency. Now, the alignment with yourself, your signal to the quantum field, it actually happens when everything is in alignment with the desire that you want. So we want to know, are your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, beliefs, and actions basically in harmony with what you want? Now we're just going to continue with the example of making more money, because everybody wants to make more money. So if you're in alignment with the desire and you're sending out that signal, most of the time you're probably sending out the emotion of being happy, of feeling wealthy. Maybe you're feeling very abundant. Maybe you're taking really good action. And that is basically going to, yes, magnetically attract different energy particles to you. Now, as we talked about earlier, those energetic particles, they basically collapse into wave-like possibilities over here. Now, since we know exactly what our desire is and what we want, we're also basically putting out a visual and a vision of what we want. And that is how we collapse the, let me just change this, the wave-like particles into what we want. And that will collapse into making more money, because once again, we have the desire and the visual in mind. So the question I always ask myself is, like, can we actually create physical matter? Now, since everything already exists, we're not necessarily creating physical matter, but we are just changing its dimensions to actually get, once again, what we want. Because like what I said earlier, every single possibility already exists, right? But when we observe something specific that we want, and in quantum physics, this is called the observer effect, that is when we do collapse it into that specific, like, reality, version, desire, and goal. Now I'm going to show you the exact thoughts, the emotions, feelings, beliefs, and actions that I shifted into that allowed me to make $10,000 in 1 month right now. But before I do, there's one key thing that I really want you to remember is you are not wishing. Right? You're not wishing for a new life, and you're not even acting. You are actually being. Because once again, I want you to remember the signal that you're sending out is basically calling in the reality where you are a vibrational match for it. Right now, the reason why you're living in the reality that you are is because you're a vibrational match for it. When you're already there, you're not wishing to be there, you're just contently there. So keep that in mind. Like, you're not acting, you're not wishing, you are in that state of beingness. So what I want to get into now is showing you the exact examples of how I made $10,000 in 1 month, and the frequency and the signal that I shifted into that allowed me to actually make that happen. So just a reminder, your signal is made up of your thoughts, what you're focusing on, where you're placing your attention on, your emotions and feelings, which is basically your energetic charge, the beliefs, what you believe to be true, and then aligned actions. Because yes, you do have to listen to your intuition and take aligned action to bring that into your physical world. So first of all is your thoughts. When I was only making $500 a month, I was constantly thinking about, oh my gosh, money is so hard to make. I have to pay my bills. Nobody takes me seriously. So I had to shift my focus to think about something else that was actually true if I was already making $10,000, if I was already living in that quantum field reality. So I start to think about, I am so good at what I do. If I was making $10,000, I would be amazing at what I was doing. So many people need my help. That's a big perspective shift, especially if you're like me, you're a business owner, content creator, you're providing a service. There are people waiting to buy my services. If you're an entrepreneur or you sell something, even if you sell you have like a sales job, you know, a lot of like, there's kind of a stigma around people don't want to spend their money. People don't want to buy products, but that couldn't be further from the truth. People love spending their money. So that's something I started to think about. Life is just so good, right? Being in gratitude and truly, genuinely loving your life, that will get you so much, that will honestly help you quantum leap to a completely different level in your life. And then last one, I love spending money because I always make more. Once again, money is energy. It is an energetic exchange. It is fluid. So you don't want to be hoarding all your money. You want to be freely spending it because that is how you're actually going to be making more. So those are all the thoughts. And now I want to get into the emotions and the feelings. So once again, these are the most like energetic charge that you are going to be sending out as a signal. So first one, like genuinely loving the process of my work. A lot of the times, this doesn't even have to do with money, but a lot of the times when we want something like a goal, desire, we really want it badly, we forget about the process. We just want to be at the end result. So for me, I fell back in love with the process of marketing, the process of creation, the process of really serving my clients, really being in my work, not being tapped out and thinking about the future 24/7. Knowing I already have more than enough, going back to gratitude. If you always feel like you're in lack and scarcity, that is the emotion and feeling that once again you're energetically sending out. And the frequency you might be tapped into is a constant frequency of fear, of lack, of scarcity. You're just always in that channel. Actively being abundant and mindful of my thoughts. A big part of changing your signal is being consciously aware of your subconscious mind, right? So if every single day you sit down and you have these automatic programs and thoughts flushing through your mind and they are not in alignment with your goal and desire, if you're not consciously aware of them, it's going to be really hard to shift them. So actively being abundant, because your thoughts, they create emotion. So if you're allowing your thoughts to just run wild, that is what is triggering the emotion of, once again, fear, doubt, lack, and scarcity in your life. And then lastly, growth versus lack mindset, right? So this kind of goes like hand in hand with everything else. If you are not really focused on expansion, if you're not growing, if you always have like a small mindset about things, you're not taking risks, you're not taking opportunities, that will always keep you in the same exact place and bubble that you're at. And then we have beliefs, which is a really, really good one, because beliefs are deeply rooted in your subconscious brain. And sometimes you don't even realize that they're there. But the beliefs that I had is every dollar I spend comes back to me times 10. I grew up in a household where my father always told me, save your money. Money doesn't grow on trees. So of course, as I grew older, I never wanted to spend my money because I always thought like I would run out or something. So for me now, every single time I spend my money, I repeat this in my mind. Every dollar I spend comes back to me times 10 because it's true. Every belief that you want to believe can be true for you. You just have to actually believe in it. People have more than enough money to pay me. More than enough. And that is true. If I focus on that, I will energetically attract people that once again have more than enough money to pay me. There is an unlimited amount of money. Now, just by watching this video, you know that is fact. You know that is true because money is just energy. Therefore, there is more than enough to go around, and there is more than enough for everybody to be rich. Okay. And then lastly, this is one of my favorites. I don't have to work harder to make more money. Okay. Because once again, in the Newtonian world, 3D world, everything in our life, what we basically grew up to believe in is cause and effect. The more input, the more hours we work, the more money we get. Once again, that can be possible and that can be true. But when you combine Newtonian with quantum physics, which is the entire video, that is when you don't actually have to make more money. You can attract different opportunities in different ways for money to flow to you. And then we have aligned action, which is a very important one because for me, when I was thinking about making $10,000 every single month, there was honestly not much that I had to do throughout the entire day. So I would do my daily maintenance tasks and then I would do whatever I wanted to do like the rest of the day. And usually my daily tasks would only honestly take me a few hours because it was posting on social media, it was marketing my business, maybe doing a few sales calls, checking up with my clients, and the rest of the day, I could do whatever I wanted to. Because once again, the quantum field does not respond to only effort. It responds to aligned effort, action, and energy. And most of the time, we do too much to get what we want, okay? And then also setting daily intentions. I found when I set intentions, I become more intuitive with the field, right? So if I sit down and I want to script out a video or I want to edit my video, I will set the intention that this is going to be a really good session for me. And most of the time, it'll be easy. I'll get into my flow state. And that is all also where I will get different downloads of more aligned actions that I can actually take. Creating in the moment versus thinking about it. This is a very big one, especially if you're a content creator, but honestly, not even that. If you want to manifest a relationship and you intuitively think about reaching out to someone that you like, do it. Like, do it. Don't think about it. Do it in the moment. That is when you are actually in alignment. And then one thing that I love, I literally live and die by, is 80% and go. Someone who used to be a chronic overthinker, perfectionist, I would have to make sure everything was right before I hit post, before I took action, before I made a decision. For me now, if it's 80% go, I will do it. And that is something that I live by and has completely changed my life as a whole. Now, there's one more thing that I mentioned that heavily impacts basically how quickly we can connect to the quantum field and attract the reality to us. And this is your subconscious mind. So I want to talk about how we influence the quantum field with our subconscious brain. Now, I want to make clear, particles do not consciously choose outcomes and create outcomes. They basically collapse. Once again, they go from energy particle to wave-like possibility, collapse into a specific event based on energetic exchange. And the exchange is happening with us. So in other terms, it's not just the conscious thoughts and actions that we're sending out. It's the deeply rooted subconscious beliefs that are basically, once again, running our life. That is what is connecting to the particles so much more than our conscious beliefs. So that's why I always say it's like someone can affirm all day, every day, I am rich, I'm abundant, I'm a millionaire. But if deep down you believe it's really hard for you to make money, the stronger frequency always wins. And the stronger frequency is always your subconscious mind. And the reason why this is because of your depth of programming. Most of the time, your subconscious beliefs, they have been rooted for you for like decades. A lot of our beliefs started when we were kids in our childhood. And that's what I just mentioned earlier. I was raised to believe money doesn't grow on trees. Money, you have to work really hard to make money. Like you have to save all your money, otherwise you're gonna run out. So of course, those are the beliefs that were instilled into me. But in order for me to quantum leap, live a different reality, I have to reprogram those beliefs. Now that goes way beyond this video because in this one, I really wanted to show you how we energetically connect with the quantum field, but I'm already ahead of you because my next video is gonna be how to actually heavily, deeply reprogram your subconscious mind. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe because the next one's gonna be a very, very good one. So that is all I have for today's video. If you haven't watched this video, make sure to watch the next. And until next week's episode on how to reprogram your subconscious brain, make sure that you stay unforgettable.